Welcome to the G20 Interfaith Podcast, a platform where we explore the intersection of faith, global challenges, and policy. Welcome to IF20 Podcast, G20 Interfaith Forum. We're so happy to have you here with us, all of our listeners. I'm Mariana Richardson.
And I'm Stuart Bird.
Today we have a special treat. We have Fadi Daou, and he is the Executive Director of Globe Ethics, where he leads the organization's efforts in fostering ethical leadership through higher education and global engagement. His work focuses on ethical leadership, sustainable peace, and inclusive development, and he has been recognized with the prestigious Elevate Prize in 2020 for global thinkers and change makers. Dr. Daou is also a policy advisor and professor of geopolitics of religion and inclusive development and peace. He is involved in the engagement of globe ethics and the ethics of AI and emerging technology, and he leads the Globe Ethics Doctoral School and the Youth Leadership Award. I do want to say personally, we have so enjoyed having some wonderful things that we've done together with IF20 and Globe Ethics, and specifically Fadi Daou previously. And we're hoping that we can also talk during this interview about some of those relationships that we've also had in the past.
Thank you, Mariana. Thank you for this introduction, and it's also my real pleasure to join this podcast and this discussion together. I think I have been involved with IF20 for a long time. I don't know exactly how many years, but many years, maybe more than 10 years in different capacities. And I really do support this initiative, and I'm happy to have this discussion together.
Thank you, Professor Fadi. In addition to Globe Ethics, you have also started the Adian Foundation, and I know that the Adian Foundation is involved with advocacy and policy making related to freedom of religion and belief, inclusive citizenship, as well as peace building. Can you explain a little bit more what led you to start Adian Foundation and what its purpose is?
So my engagement with Adian Foundation as one of the founders was for other colleagues. So we created this organization in 2006 in Lebanon first, but then it expanded. So now Adian is registered in Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and France for Europe. So it's becoming somehow an international NGO. The whole idea behind the creation of Adian is, in fact, to contribute in helping societies that are diverse culturally and religiously, mainly, to better manage their diversity, their social diversity. So be it religious diversity or ethnic or linguistic, with a big focus also on the religion as a component of the society. Then to take an example, this is why it was founded in Lebanon first. Lebanon is very well known in the Middle East for its religious diversity, with 18 different communities officially recognized, with additional also faith and beliefs in the country, but also known for the civil war and the conflict between those communities at some point. So the whole idea was to launch an organization who can develop thinking. So it's a kind of think tank part with research, but also practical work in engaging communities to better live together. The whole idea is how we can make pluralistic societies that are inclusive, that are peaceful, and not only just inclusive and peaceful because they have to live together, but the challenge was, and the bar was that I would say high, in the sense of saying we want to prove that diversity, it can be a source of creative development, can be even better for societies, so that's why we created Adian with diverse, I would say, mandate, but all of them focusing on this diversity management. So you mentioned the advocacy level, for example, working with governments, the case of Lebanon, and changing the educational system and making the educational system based on inclusive citizenship. So where every citizen, despite their differences, not only they come to the system as equal, but they come with their richness. They bring to this, they enrich the system with their specificities, cultural or religious specificities. So this is advocacy level, so changing systems and policies, but also peace building level. For example, we worked in Iraq for many years on mediation and mediating political dialogue and facilitating political dialogue in Iraq between the different communities and factions in the societies, and this was also a huge challenging and beautiful experience I personally made because I led this dialogue in Iraq with other colleagues, and that led to the creation also of an organization, Adian, in Iraq, and to continue this work. And then we are doing it in Europe because Europe is diverse also, or at least Europe is becoming aware that diversity needs to be managed. Because the worst thing you can do is when you somehow put diversity under the carpet, saying, no, no, we are all the same. We don't want to acknowledge that societies are rich through their diversity. And this is somehow a kind of an approach that is ideological and put everything on a, for example, nationalistic identity, refusing to recognize that some people have their specific needs, but also they bring some specific value to the society that it should not be lost. And so now we have beautiful programs also in France and some European countries in this perspective. So I co-founded Allian and I led the organization as a CEO until 2020. And then I handed over to the colleagues who are now continuing the work. I'm still on the board of trustees and in the board of Allian Europe. But I moved to Geneva for some work with the Geneva University and then with the Global Ethics Council.
And you have truly been an expert for us at IF20, both in this idea of peace building and, making sure this diversity throughout the world is acknowledged. But you also just more recently have become, very much involved in globe ethics. And we have also used you as, just a really strong and authoritative voice on ethics, and specifically as we look forward to ethics and AI. And so I would love for you to kind of tell our listeners a little bit about globe ethics, what's its purpose, and maybe I'm excited about this discussion about AI and ethics as well.
Thank you. So as I mentioned, I moved to Geneva for a work with the university, but then in 2023. So I was invited to take the role of executive director of Globe Ethics, and I'm proud to lead this organization that was created in 2004. So it has also almost 22 years of existing, and the aim, the purpose of Globe Ethics is in fact to contribute to promote responsible governance in the world and ethical leadership. So, and provide support. The support can be on the knowledge level, but also on the practical level or policy level to decision makers and leaders to, I would say, to practice their leadership in a responsible way and in a more positively impactful way. Unfortunately, we are recording this podcast at a moment in our world where we are seeing the opposite happening with some leadership and some decisions that are not, at least we can say, are not being helpful for peace and justice in our world. So this is why an organization like Global Ethics is, I would say, so much needed nowadays. But the mission is very difficult to implement because this means to get responsible governance and good leaders. This means that you need to build the person to the capacities on the personal level and the systems also to have the right systems and the right institutions functioning in the right way, in transparent, inclusive, accountable way to ensure that governance is leading to responsible decisions. So Currently, Global Ethics is focusing on three major portfolios. So one of them is helping promoting responsible governance and ethical decision making in organizations. So providing support to executive people, leaders in organizations to enhance the ethical decision making within their organizations. The second portfolio is on inclusive peace and multi-stakeholder dialogue around peace. So specifically, for example, engaging faith actors, religious leaders with policymakers, with parliamentarians, with governments, how to collaborate together to resolve conflicts or to create situations for opportunities for reconciliations and conflict resolutions. And the third portfolio is ethics of technology, emerging technology, and more specifically, it's of AI. And then this you were referring to this, and indeed, this is becoming, I would say, a major part of our work because of the growing need and because also of I would say the somehow the vacuum that exists today in relation to AI governance. Because what's happening today with this technology that is growing so fast, so rapidly in a way that governments, legal frameworks are not being able to follow the pace, of the development of this technology. But also, this technology is bringing lots of power and lots of capacities, and every government and every company wants to the maximum of this power share. And concretely, to name things as they are on the business level, the companies they are competing on the profit level because we know that this technology is now one of the hugest investment area and with lots of promises on the profit level. So lots of competition from the profit-driven, I would say, competition. And on the government level, it's power-driven competition. So, and mainly we have the two giants in this area, so the United States and China, who represents almost 90% of the technology in the world. And of course, they are in a race with the other countries around, but mainly those two giants. And no one wants to lose this race, because they know that this race is not just economic, it's not just political, it's also even military. It's very much related to who will dominate the future and the world. I was giving an interview yesterday after the AI Impact Summit in India, and I was saying, unfortunately, we have the feeling nowadays similar to the 1930s and 1940s years where the race was for the atomic bomb. So everyone knew that we have nuclear energy and everyone wants to get it before the other because this will create the power dynamic or power balance between the giants. And we have this impression nowadays that there is this race for the AI to get the most innovative and developed aspect of this technology, because the one who got it before will be like ahead and somehow dominating the market and the world too. And this is quite dangerous because I was saying in this interview that we feel that we are waiting or expecting a Hiroshima moment with AI, to wake up and then understand that we were racing for something, but that is endangering the whole humanity and the whole life. And I have the impression that those big decision makers are not ready to compromise or to slow down or to think in a more responsible way before maybe getting or hitting a wall or getting into a big catastrophe. And then we might start try to manage the situation in a more responsible way.
Now, I do want to just kind of go back. You did mention about the AI Impact Summit that you went to in India. I had been invited to that to speak at also there with AI and interfaith, and then that kind of dissipated and didn't happen. But I know that you were able to speak on a couple of different panels. I think a lot of our listeners might be very interested as to your thoughts and feelings specifically about what happened at that really important conference. There was a lot in the news about it, and I would just, just love just a quick
Yeah.
overview of what your thoughts were about it. Did it make any difference? I mean, they were talking about UN, starting to get they're supposedly having a UN panel that is going to be working on this and other things. Do you think that it is going to help in this area?
So it was indeed a huge conference, I mean, in a country of 1.4 billion people and very much also tech-oriented, country. I mean, all this young Indian generation who are so much interested in technology and AI. So I heard that 300,000 people registered for the conference, and we felt this somehow overwhelming aspect of the number of the enthusiasts, but that created some kind of also chaotic situation during the conference. But besides this aspect, I would say my takeaways from the summit are the following. First, is that there is no interest or very low, practically no interest from the big countries involved in AI to have any global regulation. This was very clear because, in fact, of the absence of the great players there. With China was practically absent. The United States was represented on a very low level, and they even said clearly that they are not interested in engaging in global discussion about global governance. So on the political level, this is my first takeaway. There is no appetite or readiness nowadays to regulate this technology. Then the second takeaway is that there is an increasing presence, and I would say rich presence, and somehow starting being impactful from the scientific community and the civil society, and I include the faith actor within the civil society too. This was very dynamic and was one of the realities of the conference of the summit. Is like it was weak on the political level. I think it was very strong on the civil society and expertise scientific level. For example, during the summit, the International AI Safety Report was launched, and this report, represents the work and research of around 100 top scientists in the world, with lots of civil society organizations working on this. But other examples, very active, including Indian organizations on AI inclusion, how to ensure that the marginalized communities to be included also in the benefits of the technology and protected from its potential harm. As Globe Ethics, we organized an important panel on trustworthy AI and including the Global South dialogue. We call it Global Majority, who is also the North, and I contributed to a high-level panel on AI and democracy. And I was very much insisting that today digital and AI literacy should become a human rights, a universal human rights, because if we want people to contribute to shaping this technology, to protecting also themselves from its potential harm, and to use it in the positive way to develop their own life and work, they need to be given the opportunity, to have the literacy they need for this technology, and this will help people also to be less manipulated by the deep fake and all the manipulation that this technology can also bring with it. So those are very quick, brief takeaways from the summit. I think next year the summit will be in Geneva and hosted by Switzerland, and we will see how the I would say the trajectory will move from because the title of the summit in India was Impact, so AI Impact. Before that, in Paris, the year before, it was on action, and before that, in the UK, it was, and South Korea, it was on safety. So I hope, and we are working to make the next summit hopefully focused on inclusion also, and to make sure that this technology is not deepening the divide in the world, but it's also becoming an opportunity to bridge the gap and to offer more chances for people for development.
It's also inspiring to hear about all of those civil society groups or engagement groups that were there with you at India. We find something similar at our G20 interfaith forums that there are in every country where we've had our meetings, there have been groups there that we've been able to interact with that are inspiring and are taking action in their sphere of control. We know that speaking of interfaith forums, you were there at our 2025 forum in Cape Town. Had you been to Cape Town before? Did you enjoy it?
This was my first trip to Cape Town, and
Yeah.
I enjoyed it very, very much. We have a small center for glove ethics in Cape Town, so it was also somehow easier because I was hosted by also our team there, but included also participating in the interface forum, which was I felt a very dynamic forum, especially also with the fact that the African voices could be well represented, I would say, and the young voices were quite there during the forum, and I was very much happy to engage with the younger generation and see the dynamism they bring, especially also from, as you mentioned, Stuart, to civil society dynamism. So that was great, and I was always inspired by Nelson Mandela, so I was very happy also to be there on the ground where the man did the historic change, not only for South Africa, but became a model of fight and leadership for justice and peace and reconciliation.
You know, I do think that one of the interesting discussions that happened, you were specifically talking about one of the things we had you talk about two different aspects there at our 2025 South Africa meeting. One of the things that I want to focus on, of course, is the AI ethics part, going back to AI. That is something that this year in 2026, it is one of the three main topics that G20 USA has picked. And so IF20 is really striving to be very focused on AI and interfaith and bringing those two together. I know that you talked a lot about the ethics and, you know, went along in that discussion at the forum. Do you have any other thoughts specifically about interfaith and AI?
I think, and I'm happy to know that the Interface Forum will contribute in developing, I would say, this reflection around AI and interface engagement and dialogue because it's very needed. There are some initiatives, but still, I would say, quite limited in their impact on the discussion. So there is a Ron call, then they had the Hiroshima interface call related to AI, so on, somehow on the leadership level engaging some of the industries or the big companies in this, but we need to engage, I would say, communities and youth also from an interface perspective in AI, and that's why I'm very happy to know that the forum is planning this, and so tomorrow we will, in our office here in Geneva, we will host a small meeting in preparation for the IF20. So with Catherine and Cole and some stakeholders in Geneva, and we are planning as Globetics to fully support, especially this topic in the incoming forum. What we are also doing, because we believe to somehow to make the contribution of faith communities and interfaith dialogue around AI more impactful. We need to build the capacity of people also in engaging in this. And this is why, in fact, we will be soon, this is the first time I'm announcing this, but we will be soon launching a fellowship for AI ethics and governance from an interface also perspective. And we want to bring some young leaders and community and faith, also young activists to Geneva for a kind of summer school and help them to attend also the AI for Youth, the global summit that happened in Geneva, and then build with them, build their capacities, and then somehow build with them an agenda from a faith-based and use perspective on how we need to engage with AI. Because again, the capacity is key. If not, we will create a dialogue around AI, but it will be more expressing maybe the fears and the hopes of people. But if we want people to contribute more, then we need to offer them the opportunity to build their capacities to engage with this new technology. So I'm really happy that this will be one of the main topics in the forum this year.
So one of the things that I've been working on for this year, for 2026, is kind of a policy paper, an AI and interfaith policy paper. And the one thing that I've been really fascinated with is I've been doing research and talking to religious leaders that I have to admit, in this divisive world, it's wonderful to see something that people come together. And I have seen in terms of an interfaith voice there has been this wonderful coming together about AI, using it just as a tool, that we need to have some kind of restrictions or standards globally in terms of the way that it's used and especially the way it's affecting our young people. I do see that as something that is unifying, which, yay, we have something that is unifying us together and helping us to understand how important it is that we do have some
Absolutely.
kind of an ethical training. So, you know,
I completely understand and agree with you, Mariana, on this. And I think that we will soon be seeing the kind of global interface movement working on AI, as we had recently, some kind of interface movement, global movement on the environment question. And I think now AI will be also another area where the different faith and religious communities can come together to contribute to take this a huge new not only technology but power also in the right direction. I personally call this religious social responsibility or religious global responsibility. Religions are socially and globally responsible, not only vis-a-vis their communities, but vis-a-vis the whole of humanity. And this is the most beautiful thing when different religious communities and leaders and faith leaders come together to hold together a global responsibility or a social and global responsibility. And environment is one area. Peace, of course, is another very important area. But definitely I think, is a emerging and growing area for interface collaboration.
Thank you, Professor Fadi. We know that in addition to speaking on the ethics of AI at the Cape Town IF20 Forum, you also spoke in another meeting titled Addressing Ethnic Tensions, Discrimination, and Racism: Positive Strategies and Challenges Ahead. You spoke of, in terms of the way we treat other people, you spoke of the importance of deconstructing and dismantling the instruments of polarization and dehumanization, and creating a value-based narrative, not an identity-based narrative. He also spoke of build peace by transforming an enemy into a partner. I really love those thoughts, especially because they are action items that every person, regardless of your role or your job, or your what organization you're leading, or um, what your career is, everybody can participate in that. And I think that's a wonderful result of this forum, is that we do have action items like those that people can do. What other benefits did you see from the Cape Town Forum?
Yeah, that's a big question that we need another podcast. I think this was a huge and very interesting topic also discussed in Cape Town, especially with the input of South African, young activists and leader on this topic. And I was sharing mainly out of my experience with Adian Foundation, mainly in the Middle East, Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, all those countries that are like thorn with different types of conflict and still, unfortunately, even more these days, suffering from the war. What I would like to say is the forum is always for me a platform of learning. learning, but not only learning on an intellectual level, learning also in the sense of being inspired or empowered. And myself, I feel the source of my strength comes from the younger generation who are engaged and making the change on the ground. And this was fantastic. Then what I can add to this is all this discussion is still very relevant, even more relevant today. We see how much identities are being weaponized, and how much polarization is a huge risk. And we can combine this with the previous discussion because polarization is becoming even more dangerous with AI being used, to manipulate public opinion and people. By the way, and this is for those who are listening to this podcast also, if they are interested, they can go to the website of Globe Ethics where we have good publications on AI, inclusive AI. We have a global survey about the role of the global south and civil society, including faith actors, in advocating for a trustworthy AI. And more recently, we published a report on multi-stakeholder dialogue on safety, safe AI. And then next week, we will be publishing a white paper on preparing for peace, changing the narratives to prepare for peace. This is more in relation to your last comment, Steve. So lots to say on this, but mentioning those different available paper for free, they can be downloaded and hopefully nourish and nurture the reflection around this, and maybe our discussion in the incoming forums this year. I would like to end by saying the last expression you mentioned, so transform your enemy into a partner. This is from Nelson Mandela. This is what I learned, in fact, from Nelson Mandela. So if you want to build peace, you need to talk to your enemy. And what's happening nowadays is that the opposite. In fact, the trend is that you define your enemy and you go and kill him or kill them. And this is a catastrophic situation of our world. You can have enemies in the sense like conflicting expectation, interest, and interpretation, whatever, in our societies or internationally. But then you go and you talk with those people, because going back to the first idea that we were discussing, if you believe that diversity can bring richness and creative innovation and development and peace, then you go and you engage with your so-called enemy or the one who's challenging you with their different perception, different perspective, different needs, different interests. And diplomacy was created in the world for this reason. Dialogue is created for this reason. And I think here, going back to the faith community and interfaith dialogue, I think we need to show more, and the communities need to show that the dialogue is used really to bring solutions, and not just to create a space of somehow enjoying being together because we think alike. Dialogue is also made to think with those who do not agree with us, and to tackle difficult topics and subjects. And I think we need today in the interface also to move to the difficult topics, to start discussing the disagreements in the world and how we can contribute in resolving or transforming those situations into more positive ones.
Dr. Fadi Daou, thank you so much for sharing all of this amazing information. But I also wanted to thank you very personally for all of the support and being a part of the IF20 network. For our listeners, and also those that watch us on the YouTube channel, I would say please go to the Globe Ethics website and do what Fadi Daou invited you to do, to look at some of the things that they have written about these really important subjects. And we also look forward in the future in terms of things that we will be doing together. And so I'm really excited about some of the projects that we might look forward to doing together this year and also on into the future. So thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Mariana, and thank you, Stuart, for this really interesting and lovely discussion that we had together. I hope that the listeners also will enjoy it, and and it might inspire them to continue their engagement for peace, for justice, for inclusion, for better living together in this world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And goodbye to our listeners. Thank you for joining us as well.
The podcast provides information and discussions on the G20 Interfaith Forum, but the views expressed are those of the individuals involved and not necessarily the official stance of the forum.
The content is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered professional advice or expert recommendations. Listeners should exercise personal responsibility, seek professional guidance, and conduct further research when making decisions based on the podcast.
The information shared may not always reflect the most current developments, and external links or resources are provided for additional information but are not endorsed or controlled by the podcast.
By listening to the podcast, listeners acknowledge and accept these disclaimers. Please be aware that the content of this podcast may be subject to copyright. Unauthorized copy, distribution, and reproduction of any part of the podcast is prohibited.